If you typically listen to this podcast on audio-only platforms, well, rest assured, there's a link in the description that takes you to the video format of this podcast interview. Now, let's get on with our special guest. Let's get right into it. Listen, a lot of times what gives me the accreditation, if you will, and the representation. Hello, I'm the host of Wild Podcast. My name is Darshan, man. And it's going down like this.
Big Red helps me around the house. My dream car happens to be a 1300. What's yours?
Anything else you got to say? Any words of maybe encouragement or words of hope? Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Darshan McAway, and today we have a special guest. We have Zachary Hagen. Zachary, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So you have a book that's coming out. Why don't you tell us what your book is about?
Yeah, so it actually released this last Tuesday. For those of you listening on a different day, that would have been October 22nd. And it is the final book, actually, in the Eternal Chronicles series. It has been the work of the last several years. And I'm really excited about it. So you're seeing my website, actually. I haven't updated in a little while, so it's a little out of date. But so Eternity's End just released this last Tuesday. It's available on Amazon, and it is the culmination of the story of Elior and his friends and family, and they get their happily ever after at long last. So it was a really fun one to write.
Right. How long did it take you to write this particular series?
So this took me about 4 years in total to finish.
Why so long?
I'm also a full-time teacher.
Okay.
So 70 to 80,000 word books combined with full-time teaching.
Yeah.
Takes a little bit of time. Of course, 5 books in 4 years is still a lot, even without that, for a lot of people. But it did take chipping away at the bits and pieces of time that I had after school or on the weekends to get it done.
Yeah. So how many books do you have in total?
So there's 5 books in total, and a short little pre-story that is available as well. It's sort of just like an extra bonus material.
Right. So why did you get involved in this particular genre? Like what about it fascinated you?
I'd always grown up reading fantasy stories, particularly the Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings and The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. And the genre seemed to lend itself really well to creativity and borrowing from both myth, religion, and complete flights of fancy. And so it seemed like a real opportunity to create something that was both meaningful and novel.
Okay. Now you mentioned that you're a teacher. What do you teach?
So currently I teach in a small private Christian school. So I teach a multi-grade classroom for all subjects 6th through 8th.
Okay. Oh yeah. So you definitely have your hands full.
I do.
You have your hands full a lot. So aside from teaching and writing, what's on your downtime? You know, what do you find yourself doing the most? Like, what's your hobbies?
So that's kind of shifting at the moment. If you'd asked me a couple months ago, I'd have said gaming and working out and hiking. But right now, my wife and I are actually getting ready to welcome our first child. So right now, a lot of thank you. Yeah, a lot of getting ready for that, changing things with the house, and all of the stuff that goes along with that.
You might get that bug that hits you with the children's books. You might shift over into children's books.
I've thought about it. I actually have a couple ideas that would work well for children's books. It's just illustration part that would elude me.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes some time. So with your particular series, did you get picked up by a traditional publisher or did you self-publish?
Sort of an in-between situation. I had very strong feelings about what needed to be done with this series and the way that it needed to be edited and the way that it needed to be marketed. And so in the course of writing and working towards publication of the first book, Eternity as Well, I actually started my own small publishing company.
Okay.
So I have a traditional imprint, but it's still very, very small. I do have one other author that I'm working with to potentially get their work put out, but so far, the only books that my publishing house has put out have been mine.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. And so what have you been learning since you're turning into like a publisher of yourself? Like, what's some takeaways that you've been learning from that?
I think the biggest thing is that the publishing business is so much more than just writing and marketing. It's graphic design, it's relationship building, it's publicity,
Yeah.
it's a veritable orchestra of people working together to put things out into the world, to put stories out into the world, to put ideas out. And there are varying levels of success depending on what levers you pull.
Right. 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 So are you going to end up doing the whole bit where you step away from writing and you just go into like a full-time publisher?
I don't see myself ever doing that. I
Okay.
think that if we got big enough that we were working with a lot more authors, I could see myself stepping in as an editor, but I would probably want someone else to run the business um, on a more full-time basis rather than doing it myself.
Right.
I'd rather just have a controlling stake and be able to continue with the creative processes.
Okay. Gotcha. Do you have any book signings coming up or anything of that nature?
As of yet, no, but I do have. Actually, I'm not supposed to say anything about that, but there is potentially something exciting going on with the books that
Okay.
I'm looking forward to unveiling once I have the go ahead to do so.
Oh, got you. Got you. So are you on any social media at all?
So I am on TikTok and Instagram, both with Zachary Hagen _writes, and there's a Facebook page. And my marketing team also has a TikTok and Instagram page with the Eternal Chronicles series specifically.
Got you. Got you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Zachary Hagen. He's the author of Eternity's End. Please go check out his books. His website is right below us, right down there. Zachary, thank you so much for coming on to Wild Podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No problem.